I saw my daughter-in-law, Ashley, tossing my granddaughter Lily's baby blanket into the trash. Without even thinking, I crossed the street and pulled it out before it was gone for good. Thinking only of Lily, I clutched the blanket and took it home with me. When I laid it out on my bed, my fingers brushed against something odd. There was something solid stitched inside the fabric, hidden between the soft layers of cotton. A chill ran through me as curiosity took over. I opened my drawer and took out a pair of scissors. My hands trembled as I slowly cut open the seam, pulling apart the thread little by little. And when I finally saw what was inside, I was stunned. I never could have imagined that something so small and silent could hide such terror. What I found wasn't just an item. It was proof of a lie that had been buried for years. It was the truth behind my son's death. It was the darkest secret my daughter-in-law had been keeping. And the moment I understood what it truly meant, I knew my life would never be the same. Before I go on, please subscribe and tell me where you're watching this story from, because what I'm about to share is something I still struggle to believe actually happened. My name is Julie, and I am 71 years old. I have lived alone in this house for the past 4 years, ever since I lost my only son. Noah was just 30 when he died. It happened in late August, on a Thursday afternoon. I received a call from Ashley. She was crying uncontrollably, screaming that Noah had been in an accident, that he had fallen down the stairs in their home, hit his head, and wasn't responding. I reached the hospital in about 20 minutes. I drove like I had lost my mind. My palms were slick with sweat on the steering wheel. When I entered the emergency room, Ashley was sitting on a chair with her face buried in her hands. She was wearing a light-colored blouse and there were dark stains on the sleeves. When she saw me, she jumped up and ran toward me, wrapping her arms around me as she sobbed into my shoulder. All I wanted was to see my son. I needed to see him. Then a doctor walked out, wearing that look doctors have when they're about to deliver devastating news. He said the words that shattered my entire world. Noah was dead. Severe head trauma. There was nothing they could do. I screamed, I cried. I collapsed onto the cold hospital floor. Ashley held me and told me everything would be okay, that Noah would have wanted her to stay strong. But nothing was okay. Nothing ever would be again. My husband had died 15 years earlier from a heart attack, and now my son was gone too. Noah was all I had left. He was a structural safety inspector, meticulous and respected. Someone who spent his days evaluating buildings and workplaces to make sure other families stayed safe. He worked long hours, often returning home tired but satisfied. He married Ashley 2 years before his death. She worked in hospital administration, managing patient records and scheduling. They met through mutual friends. He introduced her to me one Sunday afternoon. She was wearing a cream-colored dress, and her smile was perfect, almost too perfect. But Noah was deeply in love. His eyes lit up whenever he looked at her. He told me she was the woman he wanted to spend his life with, that he dreamed of starting a family with her. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe my son had found true happiness. A year after the wedding, Ashley became pregnant. Noah was overjoyed. He called me every single day to tell me how the baby was developing. They bought a new house and painted the nursery a soft pastel green. Noah put the crib together himself. I remember how happy he looked, how full of hope he was. And when Lily was born, it felt like life had given me a blessing, a second chance to love and care again. My granddaughter was beautiful, tiny and fragile, with Noah's dark eyes. I knitted that blanket with my own hands. It was mint green. It took weeks to finish. Every stitch carried my love for her. Noah adored that blanket. He used to joke that it was magical, that whenever he wrapped Lily in it, she would stop crying. He treated it like a treasure. But after the accident, everything changed. Ashley grew distant. At first I understood. She was grieving too. She had lost her husband. She needed time and space. But as the months went by, she brought Lily to see me less and less. She always had reasons. Baby was sick, work was overwhelming, she needed time to get her life together. I didn't want to push her. I didn't want to be the intrusive mother-in-law. So I waited. I called. I asked if I could visit my granddaughter. Sometimes she agreed. Other times she didn't even answer. And when she did allow me to see Lily, I noticed something unsettling. Ashley was different, colder, more withdrawn. The false warmth she once showed was gone. There was something sharp and calculating in her eyes that made me uneasy. But I convinced myself it was grief, that Noah's death had changed her the same way it had changed me. I tried to be patient. I tried to respect her space. Until one October morning, 4 years after Noah's death, I had bought some clothes for Lily and wanted to leave them at Ashley's house. I didn't plan to disturb her. I just wanted my granddaughter to know that her grandmother was still thinking of her. I parked my car on the other side of the street, and that's when I noticed her. Ashley was stepping out of the garage, dragging several black trash bags behind her. She was pulling them with force, heading straight for the dumpster. Then I saw it, and my heart nearly stopped. Lily's blanket, the mint green one I had knitted with my own hands, stitch by stitch, filled with love. It was crumpled and half sticking out of one bag. Ashley shoved it deep into the dumpster with an unsettling roughness, as if she despised that blanket, as if she wanted it gone forever. Ashley slammed the dumpster lid shut and walked back into the house. I stayed in my car for a few minutes, barely breathing. Anger and sadness twisted together inside me. When I was sure she wouldn't come back out, I stepped out of the car and walked toward the dumpster. I lifted the lid and began digging through the bags until I found it. There it was, dirty, wrinkled, carrying the scent of detergent and neglect. I gently pulled it free, held it tightly to my chest, and drove home without looking back. By the time I reached my house, my hands were trembling. I locked the door behind me and went straight to my bedroom. I needed to be alone with that blanket. I needed to understand why Ashley had thrown it away like it meant nothing. I carefully spread it across my bed and smoothed it out with my hands. It was filthy, but not damaged. The lace edges were still firm. The mint green color looked faded under the soft light of the lamp. I ran my fingers over every inch, feeling each texture, every stitch I had made years ago. Then I felt it, right in the middle of the blanket. A hard shape, rectangular, hidden between the layers of fabric. It wasn't part of the padding, it was something else. Something placed there intentionally. I turned the blanket over, searching for an opening, a seam that didn't belong. That's when I found it. Along the bottom edge, almost invisible, was a line of perfect stitches made with thread the exact same color as the fabric. Someone had opened the blanket, slipped something inside, and sewn it shut so carefully it was nearly impossible to notice. I went to my nightstand and took out my sewing scissors, same ones I had used when I made that blanket years ago. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold them. I took a deep breath, found the beginning of the seam, and started cutting slowly. Thread by thread. Each tiny snip sounded deafening in the quiet room. When I cut the final thread, the opening fell apart. I slid my fingers inside and touched something cold and solid. Carefully, I pulled it out. It was a phone. Small, black, powered off. I stared at it for a long time, my mind flooded with questions. Why would Ashley hide a phone inside Lily's blanket? How long had it been there? And why, after all these years, throw the blanket away now? I plugged it into an old charger and waited. When the screen finally lit up, there was no password, no lock. As the phone came to life in my hands, I felt something deep inside me shift, and I knew in that quiet room that the accident that took my son had never been an accident at all. In the weeks after the funeral, I tried to hold on to some sense of normalcy, though I'm not sure what normal even meant anymore. The house felt too quiet without Noah's voice filling it. Every sound echoed. The ticking clock in the hallway seemed louder than ever, as if it was counting something I couldn't see. Ashley stayed with me for a few days after everything happened. She said she didn't want to be alone, and I didn't want her to be either. Lily slept in the guest room, and at night I would stand outside the door listening to her breathe, afraid that if I went back to my own bed, I might wake up to another nightmare. At first, Ashley cried constantly. She talked about Noah in short, broken sentences. She said she couldn't believe he was gone, that she still expected him to walk through the door. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Grief can make people behave strangely, and I told myself that whatever felt off was just the shock settling in. After a few days, she went back to the house she had shared with Noah. She said she needed to sort through his things, handle paperwork, and try to figure out what came next. I offered to help. She thanked me but said she could manage on her own. I didn't push. I never wanted to be someone who hovered. The first time she brought Lily over after that, it was only for an hour. Ashley arrived late and kept checking her phone. Lily clung to me the entire time, her small fingers gripping my shirt as if she was afraid I might disappear too. When Ashley finally said it was time to go, Lily cried so hard it took my breath away. "Please," I said without thinking, "let her stay a little longer." Ashley's expression tightened for just a moment. Then she smiled and said Lily was overtired, that routine was important now more than ever. I nodded, even though something in my chest ached as I watched them leave. That became the pattern. Ashley controlled the visits. She decided when they happened and how long they lasted. Sometimes weeks would go by without a word. When I called, she rarely answered. When she did, she always sounded rushed. There was always a reason. Work was busy. Lily wasn't feeling well. She was trying to get her life together. I told myself I was being unreasonable. Ashley had lost her husband. She was raising a child alone. Of course she needed space. Of course she needed control over her schedule. Still, the distance hurt more than I wanted to admit. When Lily turned 1, I asked if I could help plan a small celebration. Nothing big, just a cake and a few balloons. Ashley hesitated before agreeing. The party ended up being short and strangely quiet. Ashley barely spoke to me, and when I tried to take photos with Lily, she gently but firmly moved her out of my arms. I went home that night feeling embarrassed for wanting more. There were other small moments that unsettled me, moments I dismissed as grief at the time. Ashley began referring to the house she shared with Noah as my house instead of our house. She donated most of Noah's clothes within a month, said it hurt too much to see them. When I asked if I could keep a few things of his, she paused before handing me an old sweater and a watch he rarely wore. I told myself to be grateful. A few months later, Ashley mentioned she was thinking about changing jobs. She said the environment reminded her too much of Noah. I understood that. Places carry memories. She eventually took a position that involved more paperwork and fewer people. She said it was easier that way. Slowly, almost without me noticing, she stopped mentioning Noah altogether. If I brought him up, she would nod politely and then redirect the conversation. Lily was still too young to ask questions, but I wondered what she would be told when she was old enough to understand. One afternoon, nearly a year after Noah's death, Ashley came by unannounced. She looked tired but composed. She said she was cleaning out the garage and found some of Noah's things she thought I might want. She handed me a small box. Inside were a few notebooks, an old phone charger, and some loose papers. Nothing personal, nothing sentimental. "I thought it would be better if you had these," she said. I thanked her, though I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever truly mattered to Noah had already been removed. That night, as I went through the box, I noticed how selective it was. The notebooks were empty except for a few scribbled notes. The papers were duplicates of documents I had already seen. It felt less like a gift and more like an obligation fulfilled. I began to wonder, quietly, whether Ashley was trying to control not just Lily's future, but Noah's past. Still, I said nothing. I was afraid that if I pushed too hard, I would lose Lily completely. So I stayed careful, I stayed polite. I accepted whatever scraps of time Ashley allowed me. Looking back now, I can see how deliberate it all was. But at the time, I only knew that something precious was slipping away, and I didn't know how to stop it. I told myself there would be time, that Lily would grow, and things would soften, that grief would loosen its grip on all of us. I was wrong. The days after Noah's funeral blurred together in a way that still feels unreal when I think about it. People came and went, bringing food I barely touched and offering words that slid past me without meaning. I nodded, thanked them, and waited for the house to empty again. Grief felt quieter when I was alone. The funeral itself had been small. Ashley said she didn't want anything elaborate. She said Noah wouldn't have liked attention. I didn't argue. I stood beside her, holding Lily in my arms, listening to the priest speak about a life cut short. I remember staring at the casket and thinking how wrong it all looked, how impossible it felt that my son was really inside it. Ashley cried during the service, but only at certain moments, when people were watching, when someone hugged her or spoke Noah's name too loudly. In between, she sat very still, her face carefully arranged. I noticed it then, but I told myself everyone grieves differently. After the burial, we went back to my house. Ashley didn't stay long. She said Lily needed to nap, and that she wanted to get back before it got too late. It wasn't even evening yet, but I didn't question her. I watched from the window as she strapped Lily into the car and drove away, leaving a silence behind that felt heavier than anything before. A few days later, Ashley called and said she needed to go back to the house they had shared. She said the walls were closing in on her. She asked if Lily could stay with me for the weekend. I said yes immediately. I was grateful for the time, grateful for the distraction. That weekend, Lily barely slept. She cried at night, restless and unsettled. I walked the floor with her pressed against my chest, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. I told her she was safe. I told her grandma was here. I told her daddy loved her. On Sunday evening, Ashley came to pick her up. She looked composed, almost refreshed. She thanked me and said she would call soon. She didn't. The first official meeting about Noah's death happened 2 weeks later. Ashley asked me to come with her to the police station. She said it would be easier if we went together. I agreed, though the thought of sitting in a room talking about how my son died made my stomach twist. The officer we spoke to was polite and efficient. He explained that Noah's death had been ruled an accident, a fall down the stairs, severe head trauma, no signs of forced entry, no evidence of foul play. He said these things gently, as if softness could make them easier to accept. Ashley nodded along, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. When the officer asked if we had any questions, she shook her head immediately. I hesitated. "Did anyone else see what happened?" I asked. The officer glanced at his notes. "Your daughter-in-law was home at the time," he said. "She found him at the bottom of the stairs." I looked at Ashley. She didn't meet my eyes. "Was anyone else contacted?" I asked. "Neighbors, emergency services?" The officer said the emergency call had been placed promptly. He said the timeline was consistent. He said accidents like this were more common than people realized. I nodded, though something about the explanation felt thin. Not wrong, just incomplete. On the drive home, Ashley talked about paperwork. insurance forms, accounts that needed closing. She said Noah had been organized, that everything was straightforward. I listened, exhausted, staring out the window. That night, alone in my house, I replayed the officer's words. Found him at the bottom of the stairs. I pictured Noah, careful, methodical, someone who double-checked railings and footing for a living, slipping in his own home. It didn't sit right, but grief has a way of blurring logic. I told myself I was searching for meaning where there was none. A month later, Ashley mentioned the insurance payout. She said it would take some time, but that everything was moving forward. I didn't ask questions. Money felt irrelevant compared to what had been lost. Still, there were small details that returned to me in quiet moments. The stairs in Noah's house were carpeted, the railing was sturdy. He had inspected that house himself when they bought it. He had pointed out things he wanted fixed, things he didn't trust. He had trusted those stairs. I remembered the doctor at the hospital, how quickly he delivered the news, how little he said afterward. No mention of additional injuries, no suggestion of further tests. I remembered how Ashley's sleeves had been stained that day, dark marks that didn't look like dust. I remembered how she had washed her hands repeatedly in my bathroom afterward, standing at the sink longer than necessary. At the time, none of it had formed a shape. It was just noise in my head, grief static. Weeks passed, then months. Ashley grew more distant. She handled everything herself. When I asked about the investigation, she said there was nothing more to investigate. When I asked about reports or documents, she said she had copies if I needed them, but I never saw them. One afternoon, I stopped by Noah's house unannounced. I had been nearby and thought I might drop off some soup. Ashley looked surprised to see me. She hesitated before letting me in. The house felt different, bare. Photos were gone from the walls. Noah's boots were missing from the entryway. His jacket no longer hung by the door. "I'm trying to simplify," Ashley said when she noticed me looking around. "Too many reminders." I nodded, though my chest felt tight. I asked, carefully, if I could see the stairs. Ashley looked confused but pointed toward them. They looked exactly as I remembered. Clean, solid, ordinary. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the steps, trying to imagine the moment everything had gone wrong. I couldn't. Ashley watched me closely. "Julie," she said finally, her voice gentle but firm. "I know this is hard, but you have to let go of the questions. They won't bring him back." I wanted to tell her that questions were all I had left. Instead, I nodded. That night, I lay awake thinking about the way she had said my name, like a warning wrapped in concern. The official death certificate arrived a week later. Cause of death, accidental fall. Time of death, mid-afternoon. Everything neat, everything final. I put the document in a drawer and tried to move forward. I focused on Lily, on the sound of her laughter when I managed to see her, on the way she reached for me when Ashley wasn't looking. I told myself that even if some questions remained unanswered, life had to continue. I didn't know then that the answers weren't gone. They were simply waiting. Hidden, stitched into something I loved. The longer time passed, the more careful I became with my words around Ashley. I learned quickly that certain questions closed doors while silence kept them slightly open. So I chose silence more often than not. I asked to see Lily when I thought it would be easiest for Ashley to say yes. Short visits, public places, times that fit neatly into her schedule. Even then, the answers were unpredictable. Sometimes she agreed without hesitation. Other times, days went by without a response. When she did reply, it was usually brief, polite, final. When Lily was about 18 months old, Ashley told me she had enrolled her in a daycare program. She said Lily needed structure, socialization, routine. I nodded and said it sounded like a good idea. I asked where it was. Ashley named a place across town. I offered to help with drop-offs or pickups. "That won't be necessary," she said. "I've got it covered." Her tone left no room for discussion. Visits became less frequent after that. When I did see Lily, she seemed more tired, quieter. She clung to me as if afraid I might vanish again. Ashley watched us closely, always within arm's reach. If Lily reached for me, Ashley would gently pull her back, smiling as she did it. "She's getting attached," Ashley said once, laughing softly. "Kids do that." I laughed too, because that was easier than saying what I felt. Holidays were the hardest. The first Thanksgiving after Noah's death, Ashley said she wanted to keep things low-key. She said she and Lily would stay home. I spent the day alone, eating reheated leftovers and trying not to imagine the empty chair at her table. At Christmas, I asked if I could spend the morning with them. I offered to come early and leave before Lily's nap. Ashley hesitated before agreeing. I arrived with wrapped gifts and a small tree ornament with Noah's name engraved on it. Ashley thanked me for the gifts but didn't hang the ornament. She placed it in a drawer instead. "He wouldn't want us to dwell," she said when she noticed me looking. I said nothing. That winter, I noticed Ashley changing small details about Lily's life. She shortened her name when introducing her to others. She corrected me when I used certain nicknames. She told Lily to call me by my first name instead of Grandma. "She's old enough to learn names properly," Ashley said. It felt like a quiet erasure, happening one piece at a time. I tried to stay involved in whatever ways I could. I asked about Lily's milestones, her first words, her favorite foods. Ashley answered when it suited her. Other times she brushed me off, say she was busy. Once, during a rare afternoon visit, Lily tripped and fell in the living room. She cried and ran to me instinctively. I picked her up without thinking, rocking her gently. Ashley's expression hardened. "Give her to me," she said. I did. Later, as I was getting ready to leave, Ashley stood in the doorway and said, "Julie, I know you mean well, but Lily needs consistency. Too many influences can confuse a child." I nodded. I understand. I didn't tell her that children don't confuse love with influence. Around that time, a distant cousin of mine, Ruth, stopped by one afternoon. She had known Noah since he was a boy and wanted to see photos of Lily. I showed her what I had. Ruth asked why she didn't see Lily around more often. "Her mother keeps her busy," I said carefully. Ruth frowned. "That's a shame. Family matters." Her words stayed with me. A few months later, Ruth ran into Ashley by chance at a grocery store. She mentioned it to me later, saying Ashley had seemed surprised to see her, almost startled. She said Ashley had spoken quickly, kept glancing around, as if she were in a hurry to leave. I told myself it meant nothing. Then there were the changes to the house. When I drove past occasionally, I noticed new curtains, new paint, a different car in the driveway. Noah's presence seemed to fade more each time I looked. It was as if Ashley was rewriting her surroundings to match a version of life where he had never existed. One afternoon, I finally asked Ashley if she planned to move. She said she was considering it. She said the neighborhood held too many memories. "Will you tell me where you go?" I asked. "Of course," she said, smiling. But something in her eyes told me that of course meant only if it suited her. I began keeping a small notebook by my bed. Not intentionally at first. It started as a place to jot down dates when I saw Lily, things she said, changes I noticed. Over time, it became something else, a record. I didn't think of it that way then. I just needed somewhere to put the thoughts that had nowhere else to go. I wrote down when Ashley cancelled visits, when she arrived late, when Lily looked unusually withdrawn. None of it was dramatic, none of it felt actionable, but together it formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. I never confronted Ashley about it. I was afraid that if I did, she would cut me off completely. I had seen how easily she controlled access, how quickly she closed ranks. So I waited. I waited through birthdays I barely attended, through holidays spent alone, through long stretches of silence broken only by short messages confirming or cancelling visits. I told myself that patience was the price of staying in Lily's life. I didn't realize yet that patience was exactly what Ashley was counting on. I didn't examine the blanket right away. After I brought it home from the dumpster, I folded it carefully and set it on the chair in my bedroom. I told myself I would look at it later, when my hands were steadier, when my thoughts weren't racing. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every small movement feel too loud. I needed time to breathe. That blanket carried too much with it, too many memories, too much of Noah. I made myself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. My mind kept circling back to the way Ashley had thrown it away. Not casually, not like something old or worn. She had shoved it down as if she needed it gone, as if seeing it disturbed her. After a while, I went back to the bedroom. I laid the blanket out across my bed, smoothing it with my palms. The fabric felt familiar beneath my fingers. I knew every stitch because I had made every stitch. I remembered sitting by the window in the evenings, counting rows, imagining Lily wrapped inside it, warm and safe. At first glance, nothing looked wrong. It was dirty, yes, but intact. No tears, no fraying beyond what time would naturally cause. I turned it over once, then again, more slowly. That was when I felt it. Something firm beneath the cotton. Not part of the batting, not something that belonged. My stomach tightened. I pressed my fingers along the surface, moving carefully, confirming what I already knew. There was an object inside, rectangular, solid, hidden deliberately between the layers. I sat down on the edge of the bed and held the blanket in my lap. For a moment, I considered folding it back up and pretending I hadn't noticed. Whatever was inside it had been hidden for a reason. Finding it meant crossing a line I wouldn't be able to uncross. But I had already crossed it the moment I lifted that blanket from the trash. I opened my nightstand and took out my sewing scissors. They were old, slightly dull at the tip, familiar in my hand. I turned the blanket over again, inspecting the edges. That's when I saw it, a seam that didn't quite match the rest. The thread was the same color, the stitches neat, but they weren't mine. Someone else had opened it. My hands trembled as I found the beginning of the seam and started cutting. Slowly, carefully. I didn't want to damage whatever was inside, though I didn't yet know why that mattered. Each small snip sounded too loud in the quiet room. When the final thread came loose, the opening widened. I slipped my fingers inside and touched something cold. I pulled it out. It was a phone, small, black, powered off. I stared at it for a long time, my thoughts scattering in every direction at once. Why would Ashley hide a phone inside Lily's blanket? How long had it been there? And why throw the blanket away now after all these years? I turned the phone over in my hands. There were no cracks, no obvious damage. It looked old, but not unusable. I searched through drawers until I found an old charger I had kept out of habit. When I plugged it in, nothing happened at first. I waited. After a few minutes, a small light appeared on the screen. My breath caught. I sat on the bed and watched as the phone powered on. There was no password, no lock screen. It opened immediately, as if whoever owned it never expected anyone else to find it. The home screen appeared, plain and untouched. My fingers hovered above it, unsure where to begin. Messages, photos, contacts. Everything felt heavy with possibility. I opened the gallery. The first image took a moment to register. It was Ashley. She was sitting at a table in a restaurant, smiling brightly at the camera. Her hair was styled, her makeup perfect. And beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched, was a man I didn't recognize. His arm was around her back, his mouth was pressed to her cheek. My chest tightened as I checked the date. The photo had been taken 5 years ago. Noah had still been alive. I scrolled, more photos, different places, the same man, Ashley laughing, Ashley leaning into him, Ashley kissing him openly. Each date landed like a blow. This wasn't something brief. It wasn't a mistake. It was a relationship. I felt a sharp, burning pain settle behind my eyes. My son had trusted her, he had loved her completely, and while he was building a family, she had been living a separate life. My hands shook as I kept scrolling. There were videos too. I tapped one without thinking. The screen flickered, then steadied. The video showed a familiar living room. Noah's living room. The camera was set down, angled toward the couch. Ashley walked into frame, laughing, followed by the same man. They kissed without hesitation, as if the house belonged to them. I stopped the video. I couldn't watch anymore. I set the phone down on the bed and pressed my hands to my face. The room felt too small, the air too thin. I had expected to find something hidden, but not this. Not proof of betrayal laid out so plainly. After a while, I picked the phone up again. If this was all there was, it would be devastating enough. But something told me it didn't end there. I opened the messages. There were long conversations saved under a single initial, H. The earliest messages were affectionate, casual at first, then intimate. Ashley wrote about missing him, about how hard it was to pretend. She complained about being stuck, about feeling trapped in a life she didn't want. And then I saw my son's name. She spoke about Noah as if he were an obstacle, something in the way, someone preventing her from being happy. I felt sick. As I scrolled further, the tone shifted, the messages grew sharper, more impatient. She wrote about wanting a different future, about being tired of waiting. Then I read the line that made my vision blur. There has to be another way. I can't live like this forever. I swallowed hard and kept reading. A few messages later, she wrote, I need him gone. The phone slipped from my hands and landed on the bed. I stared at the ceiling, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might break through my chest. Gone. Not divorced, not separated, gone. In that moment, the distance, the control, the silence, the blanket in the trash, all of it shifted into something darker. I picked the phone up again, my fingers numb. I knew then that I wasn't just looking at betrayal, I was staring at the beginning of the truth. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of my bed with the phone in my hands, reading the messages over and over, as if repetition might soften their meaning. It didn't. Each time, the words felt heavier, sharper. They pressed into me until my chest ached. I went back to the beginning of the conversation, forcing myself to read slowly. Ashley wrote about feeling unseen, about wanting more, about how hard it was to keep pretending. At first, she sounded restless, dissatisfied, then she sounded angry, and then she sounded resolved. The man answered cautiously at first. He tried to calm her. He told her to be patient. He warned her not to say things she couldn't take back. His words were hesitant, measured, as if he understood the danger of what she was suggesting. Ashley didn't stop. I'm tired of waiting, she wrote. I want my life now. Another message followed soon after. He refuses to let me go. I knew she meant Noah. My hands shook as I scrolled. She complained about being trapped, about having to act grateful, about the life she felt forced to live. She spoke about my son as if he were a burden she had been carrying instead of the man who loved her. Then the messages changed again. I found someone who can help, she wrote unevening. There was a long pause before H replied. What do you mean? Ashley didn't explain. She only wrote that everything would be taken care of, that soon they wouldn't have to hide anymore, that soon they could be together openly. My throat tightened. The next messages were colder, shorter, practical, dates, times, fragments that felt incomplete on their own but terrifying together. He'll be home early that day. Make sure nothing looks strange. I'll handle the rest. I checked the timestamps. The last message was sent 6 days before Noah died. After that, there was nothing. No panic, no grief, no shock, just silence. I set the phone down and pressed my palms against my eyes. The room felt too bright, even in the dark. My son's face kept appearing in my mind. His smile, his quiet way of listening, the pride he took in small things. I thought about the stairs, the careful way he used to descend them, one hand always on the railing. I thought about the house he had inspected himself, the confidence he had in what he trusted. The word accident felt hollow now. I opened the phone again and searched through the rest of it. Contacts, call logs, notes. There was only one note. It was short, typed, dated 2 days before Noah's death. Thursday, mid-afternoon. He'll be alone. Everything has to look natural. I stared at the words until they blurred. Look natural. An accident. I felt something inside me go still. I had crossed from suspicion into certainty. By morning, my tears were gone. In their place was a hollow clarity that frightened me more than grief ever had. I moved through the house mechanically, making coffee I didn't drink, opening curtains I didn't look through. I knew I couldn't carry this alone. I thought about calling the police immediately, but my mind caught on the same questions again and again. How would I explain where the phone came from? How would I prove it hadn't been planted? What if Ashley found out I had it before I was ready? I needed someone who knew me, someone who would listen without dismissing me. I picked up the phone and called Grace, my neighbor of nearly 30 years. She had seen me through my husband's illness, through Noah growing up, through everything life had thrown at me. If anyone would believe me, it would be her. She answered on the third ring. "Julie," she said, "is everything all right?" "No," I said. My voice sounded far away, even to me. "I need you to come over. Right now." There was a pause. "I'm on my way," she said. When Grace arrived, I didn't waste time. I led her straight to the bedroom and placed the phone in her hands. I told her everything about the blanket, the messages, the note. I watched her face change as she read, disbelief giving way to horror. When she looked up, her eyes were wet. "This isn't an accident," she said quietly. "I know," I replied. She swallowed. "This is planning. This is intent." We sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of it pressing down on us. "What are you going to do?" she asked finally. I looked at the blanket folded on the chair, at the phone resting between us, at the life I thought I understood. "I'm going to find out who H is," I said, "and then I'm going to make sure my son's death doesn't stay buried." Grace nodded slowly. "Then we do this carefully," she said, "together." Grace stayed with me most of that morning. Neither of us felt ready to leave the house, as if stepping outside might somehow undo what we had uncovered. We sat at the kitchen table with the phone between us, untouched now, like something fragile. When the shock wore off enough for thought to return, Grace was the first to speak. "We need to know who this man is," she said. "You can't go to the police without that." I nodded. I already knew she was right. A single initial wasn't enough. Not yet. We started with what we had. The phone, the messages, the photos. Grace suggested we look for clues that weren't obvious. Backgrounds, reflections, anything that might point to a location or a name. I opened the gallery again, forcing myself to look past the pain. We enlarged images, zooming in on small details. A street sign in the distance, a restaurant menu partially visible on a table, a logo stitched into a shirt. One photo caught my attention. Ashley and the man were standing outside a cafe. Behind them on the glass door was a partial reflection of the street. I recognized it almost immediately. "That's downtown," I said, "near the river." Grace leaned closer. "You sure?" "I've walked past that place dozens of times," I replied. "It's near the old courthouse." That narrowed things, but not enough. Next, we opened the contacts list. Most of the names were ordinary, first names only, initials, numbers without labels. Then Grace pointed to one. "Harlan," she said. "That starts with H." My heart began to pound. I tapped the name. No photo, just a number. We searched the call history. There were dozens of calls between Ashley and that number, especially during the months leading up to Noah's death. Long calls, late-night calls. "That's him," Grace said softly. I didn't answer. I couldn't yet. Grace suggested checking social media. I opened my laptop and typed Ashley's name into the search bar. Her profile appeared immediately. Public, carefully curated. Photos of Lily, neutral quotes. Nothing personal, nothing revealing. I clicked through her friends list, filtering by names that began with H. There were several. Henry, Harold, Harris. Then I saw it. Harlan Pierce. My breath caught. I clicked on his profile. The photo loaded slowly, and when it did, there was no doubt. It was the same man, the same eyes, the same crooked smile. Grace didn't need to ask. She saw it in my face. "That's him," she said. Harlan Pierce was 39 years old. His profile listed him as a project manager for a regional contracting firm. He lived in the same city. His photos showed a life that looked ordinary enough. Group outings, work events, vacations. There were no photos of Ashley. That absence felt deliberate. We scrolled further back. Years ago, there were pictures taken in places I recognized. Restaurants near Noah's office. A park close to their old neighborhood. They were careful, Grace said, or they cleaned things up later. I felt a wave of anger rise in my chest. This wasn't reckless, it was calculated. Grace suggested we search for financial connections. I hesitated. I didn't want to think about money, it felt wrong. But motive mattered. I remembered Ashley mentioning insurance. I retrieved the folder I had placed in my desk drawer months earlier, one she had handed me briefly, say I might need copies someday. Inside were a few official-looking documents. At the time, I hadn't read them closely. Now, my hands shook as I did. Noah had a life insurance policy. The amount made my breath catch. Ashley was the sole beneficiary. The payout date was 3 months after his death. Grace leaned over my shoulder. "That's a lot of money." I nodded, more than I realized. We kept reading. Tucked between the pages was a bank statement. I didn't recognize the account number. The transaction date stood out, a large transfer, sent to an account under the name H. Pierce. The room went very still. Grace sat back slowly. That's not coincidence. I felt cold all over. This wasn't just words on a screen anymore. It was movement, action, payment. Grace looked at me carefully. "Julie, this means we pass suspicion. This is evidence." I nodded, though my mind felt numb. "There's something else," Grace added. "If she was willing to do this once, we have to ask what else she's capable of." I thought of Lily, of the way Ashley guarded her, of how tightly she controlled everything. "I need to see her," I said suddenly. Grace frowned. "Right now?" "Yes," I replied, "before Ashley knows what I know." Grace hesitated, then nodded. "Then we do it carefully." I sent Ashley a message, keeping my words light. "Hi, I miss Lily. Could I stop by later today, just for a short visit?" The reply came faster than I expected. "All right, but not for long." My heart began to race. Grace squeezed my hand. "I'll be nearby," she said. "If anything feels wrong, you leave." As I grabbed my keys, I glanced once more at the phone, the documents, the name that had finally taken shape. Harlan Pierce wasn't just an affair. He was part of what had taken my son from me, and I was about to walk straight back into Ashley's world, carrying a truth she believed was buried. I drove to Ashley's house with my hands tight on the steering wheel, my thoughts moving faster than the traffic around me. I had rehearsed what I would say, nothing confrontational, nothing revealing, just a grandmother asking to see her granddaughter. Nothing more. Grace followed at a distance. We had agreed she wouldn't come inside unless I asked. Just knowing she was nearby steadied me. Ashley opened the door before I rang the bell, as if she had been watching from the window. She smiled when she saw me, the same careful smile she always used now. "Hi, Julie," she said. "You're right on time." The house smelled faintly of cleaning solution. Everything looked polished, staged, too tidy to feel lived in. Lily's shoes were lined neatly by the door. Noah's were gone. "Lily's upstairs," Ashley said. "She's been a little cranky today." "I won't stay long," I replied. She nodded and stepped aside to let me in. Lily ran to me as soon as she saw me, her face lighting up in a way that made my chest ache. I scooped her up and held her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. For a moment, everything else faded. Ashley watched us from the doorway, her arms folded loosely across her chest. We sat in the living room. Lily played with her toys while I talked quietly, asking about daycare, about her favorite songs. Ashley answered when it suited her, glancing at her phone more than once. I waited. After a few minutes, I said, "I brought some things for Lily, they're in my car. Would you mind if I ran out to get them?" Ashley hesitated, just for a second. "That's fine," she said. "I'll stay here with her." I stood, kissed Lily's head and stepped outside. As soon as the door closed behind me, I took a deep breath and sent Grace a single word. "Now." Grace appeared moments later, carrying a small bag and wearing a polite, slightly flustered expression. "Sorry to bother you," she said when Ashley opened the door again. "I'm Julie's neighbor. I was with her earlier and left my glasses in her car. Could I come in for just a minute?" Ashley looked surprised, then irritated. She glanced back toward the living room. "Quickly," she said. Grace smiled and stepped inside. While Ashley focused on Grace, I lingered near the hallway, my heart pounding. I didn't have a plan beyond paying attention, looking, noticing. Grace moved toward the bathroom as instructed. Ashley followed her part way, talking quickly, her voice tight. The moment they disappeared down the hall, I moved. I didn't rummage, I didn't open drawers, I didn't touch anything that didn't need to be touched. I went straight for the study. Noah had used that room once. Now it looked different. The shelves were rearranged, the desk cleared. Still, a filing cabinet sat in the corner, half hidden behind a plant. I opened it. Inside were folders labeled neatly: utilities, taxes, insurance. My hands shook as I pulled one out: life insurance. The policy number matched the one in my drawer at home. Tucked inside was another statement, a duplicate maybe, but this one had handwritten notes in the margin, dates, amounts. I snapped a photo with my phone. Footsteps sounded in the hall. I closed the drawer and stepped back just as Ashley appeared in the doorway. "Julie?" she said sharply. "What are you doing in here?" "I was looking for the restroom," I said. The lie came easily, too easily. Her eyes narrowed. "It's down the hall," she said. "You know that." I got turned around, I replied. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Lily's voice carried from the living room, calling for her mother. Ashley broke eye contact first. "Grace is leaving," she said. "So are you." Grace emerged moments later, apologetic, thanking Ashley again. We left without another word. Once we were in the car, Grace let out a breath she had clearly been holding. "She knows," Grace said. "I know," I replied. My phone buzzed. A message from Ashley. "Next time, please come alone." That night, I spread everything out on my kitchen table: phone, the documents, the photos I had taken. The pieces fit too well now, too cleanly. I knew we were running out of time. Ashley knew something was wrong, and Lily was still in that house. I picked up my phone and opened my contacts. It was time to stop trying to handle this quietly. It was time to ask for help. I waited until morning. I didn't sleep much, but I waited anyway. I wanted daylight. I wanted my voice to sound steady when I spoke. Panic wouldn't help Lily, and it wouldn't help me. Grace came over early. We sat at the kitchen table again, the same place where everything seemed to end up now. I showed her the photo I had taken of the insurance documents. She didn't need much explanation. "You're past the point of quiet," she said. "You know that." "I know," I replied. I called the local police station and asked to speak with someone about reopening a closed case. My hands shook as I held the phone, but my voice stayed calm. They told me to come in. Grace drove me. The station was smaller than I remembered, a low building with pale walls and fluorescent lights that hummed softly. We waited for a few minutes before a detective stepped out and called my name. His name was Mark Ellis. He looked to be in his early 40s, tired-eyed but attentive. He led us into a small office and asked me to start from the beginning, so I did. I told him about Noah, about the fall, about the blanket in the trash, about the phone hidden inside it. I showed him the messages, the photos, the note. I told him about Harlan Pierce, about the money. Detective Ellis didn't interrupt. He asked questions only when something needed clarifying. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his jaw. "This is serious," he said. "Very serious." I nodded. "I know." He examined the phone himself, scrolling carefully, noting dates and times. He studied the photos of the documents I had taken. When he reached the message about making things look natural, his expression hardened. "We'll need to verify all of this," he said. "Chain of custody matters. But what you've brought in is enough to reopen the case." Relief washed through me, sharp and sudden. "What happens now?" I asked. "We start by re-interviewing everyone involved," he replied. "Your daughter-in-law included. We'll also look closely at the insurance and financial transfers." "And Lily?" I asked. He met my eyes. "At the moment, Ashley is her legal guardian. Without a court order, I can't remove the child. But if there's an immediate risk, that changes." I nodded, though the answer sat heavy in my chest. Detective Ellis asked if Ashley knew I had the phone. I told him no, not for certain. He frowned slightly. "We'll move carefully," he said. "If she senses this investigation, she may try to leave." That fear had already taken root in my mind. Before we left, he gave me his card and told me to call if anything changed, any strange behavior, any sudden plans. 2 days passed. Ashley didn't call. She didn't respond to my messages. I drove past her house once, slowly, my heart racing. Her car was gone. I called Detective Ellis immediately. "We're on it," he said. "Stay where you are." An hour later, he called back. "She booked tickets," he said, "for herself and Lily, one way." My legs nearly gave out. "Where?" I asked. "Out of state," he replied. "We're working to intercept." I paced my living room, every minute stretching unbearably long. Grace stayed with me, her hand tight around mine. Finally, my phone rang again. "We stopped her at the airport," Detective Ellis said. "She was carrying a large amount of cash and altered identification documents." I sank into a chair, breath leaving me all at once. "And Lily?" I asked. "She's safe," he said. "Child Services has her now." Tears blurred my vision. He asked me to come to the station. When we arrived, I was led into a small room with a few toys scattered on the floor. Lily sat on a mat, holding a stuffed animal. When she saw me, she stood and ran straight into my arms. "Grandma," she said softly. I held her tightly, feeling her small heartbeat against mine. A woman introduced herself as Claire, a social worker. She explained that Lily would be placed temporarily with family while things were sorted out. "With you, if you're willing," she added. "I am," I said immediately. That night, Lily slept in my bed, curled against my side. I lay awake, listening to her breathe, knowing that the truth I had uncovered had finally reached the light. But I also knew it wasn't finished yet. Ashley hadn't spoken, and the past rarely stays quiet once it's disturbed. The next few days moved slowly, then all at once. Detective Ellis kept me informed as much as he could. Ashley had asked for a lawyer immediately and refused to answer questions. The altered documents found in her bag would be examined. The cash was counted and logged. Everything was procedure now, careful and methodical. I focused on Lily. Claire visited the house and asked questions about my health, my routines, my ability to care for a child full-time. I answered honestly. I told her about Noah, about the years I had spent raising him on my own after my husband died, about the quiet life I lived now. She watched Lily with me, noting how she followed me from room to room, how she reached for my hand without thinking. "She's comfortable here," Claire said. "That matters." I signed papers that afternoon. Temporary placement, review in 30 days. That night, Detective Ellis called. "We spoke with Harlan Pierce," he said. "He didn't deny the relationship." My stomach tightened. "He claims it was an affair," the detective continued. "He says he never intended for anyone to get hurt." "And the money?" I asked. There was a pause. "He says Ashley told him it was a loan for a business venture." I almost laughed. Did he believe that? "Belief isn't the issue," Ellis replied. "Consistency is. His story isn't consistent." The following morning, he called again. This time, his voice was sharper. "We've reopened Noah's case formally," he said. "We're ordering a second autopsy." I closed my eyes. "There were details missed the first time," he added. "Bruising that doesn't align with a simple fall." I sat at the kitchen table, the same place where everything seemed to come back to me. Later that day, Grace came over with groceries and stayed for dinner. Lily laughed when Grace made silly faces, the sound light and unexpected in the middle of everything. I held on to that sound. 2 days later, Detective Ellis asked me to come to the station again. He played a recording for me. Ashley sat across from another officer, her posture rigid, her expression controlled. "I want my lawyer," she said flatly. "We understand," the officer replied. "But before he arrives, you might want to explain why you were trying to leave the state with false identification." Ashley's jaw tightened. I was protecting my daughter. "From what?" the officer asked. She didn't answer. Ellis paused the recording. "She hasn't confessed," he said, "but she's making mistakes." "What about the note?" I asked. "The one on the phone. It matches the timeline," he said, "and we found something else." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of financial records. Smaller transfers this time, spread out, sent to accounts linked to Harlan over several months. "This wasn't a single payment," Ellis said. "It was an arrangement." I thought of the careful way Ashley had removed Noah from her life, his clothes, his photos, his presence. That evening, after Lily was asleep, I stood in the doorway of her room and watched her chest rise and fall. I wondered how close she had come to disappearing with Ashley, to growing up somewhere far away, believing a different story. The second autopsy results came back a week later. Noah had injuries inconsistent with an accidental fall, bruising on his wrists, marks suggesting restraint. Ellis didn't soften his words when he told me. "Your son was pushed," he said. The truth hurt more than I expected. Knowing didn't bring relief, it brought weight. That night I cried quietly so Lily wouldn't hear. Ashley was charged the next morning. Conspiracy, fraud, homicide. When Ellis called to tell me, his voice was steady. "We have enough now," he said. I thanked him and hung up. For the first time since the blanket, since the phone, since the truth began to surface, I felt something loosen inside me. Not peace, but certainty. The trial began 3 months later. By then, the story had spread beyond our town. Reporters waited outside the courthouse each morning, their voices low and urgent, their cameras always ready. I learned to keep my head down, to walk past them without answering questions. Nothing I could say would change what had already happened. I sat in the front row every day. I wanted Ashley to see me. I wanted her to know that I was listening to every word. She looked different in the courtroom, smaller, stripped of the polish she once carried so carefully. Her hair was pulled back. Her face was bare. She didn't look at me. The prosecution laid out the case slowly, methodically. They presented the phone first, the messages, the photos, the note. Each piece of evidence was introduced carefully, tied to dates and timelines. There was no rush, no theatrics. When the insurance records were shown, I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. Numbers projected on a screen, transfers highlighted, names spelled out clearly. Harlan Pierce took the stand on the 4th day. He looked pale, thinner than in his photos. His voice shook as he spoke. He admitted to the affair. He admitted to receiving money. At first he claimed he didn't understand what it was for, that Ashley had manipulated him, that he had been afraid to walk away. Then the messages were read aloud. His excuses unraveled. He described the day Noah died, how Ashley had called him afterward, how calm she had sounded, how she told him everything had gone as planned. I stared straight ahead, my hands clenched in my lap. The defense tried to paint him as the true villain, a desperate man lying to save himself, but the evidence didn't support that story. Too many details lined up, too many records matched. The medical examiner testified next. He explained the injuries found during the second autopsy, the bruising, the signs of restraint, the force required. It was not an accident, he said plainly. Ashley's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Former co-workers were called. A neighbor testified about seeing Harlan's car parked near the house on the day Noah died. Another witness spoke about hearing raised voices earlier that afternoon. Each testimony added weight. Ashley never testified. She sat silently, her expression controlled, her hands folded in front of her. Sometimes she wrote notes to her lawyer. Sometimes she stared at the table. On the final day, the prosecutor addressed the jury. "This was not a moment of passion," she said. "It was planning. It was patience. It was profit." The defense argued doubt, circumstance, motive without action. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the room felt impossibly quiet. The foreperson stood. "Guilty," he said. The word echoed. Ashley showed no reaction. The judge sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I didn't feel relief, I felt finality. Outside the courthouse, reporters surged forward. I kept walking. Grace was waiting by the car. She took my hand and squeezed it. "It's over," she said. I nodded. But I knew better. Because trials end, loss doesn't. Life didn't return to normal after the trial. It settled into something else. The reporters disappeared first, then the phone calls stopped. Slowly, the world found a new story to focus on, and our name faded from the headlines. That was a relief I hadn't expected. I didn't want to be known for what had happened. I just wanted to live with what remained. Lily stayed with me. At first, everything was temporary. Temporary placement, temporary routines, temporary answers to questions I wasn't ready to explain. But days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Court dates passed, reviews were held. Each time, the outcome stayed the same. "This is where she belongs," Claire said during one visit. "She's stable here." I signed the final custody papers almost a year after Ashley's sentencing. My hand shook, not from doubt, but from the weight of it. I wasn't just a grandmother anymore. I was Lily's guardian, her constant. Raising her wasn't easy. There were nights she woke up crying, calling for her mother. There were days she asked questions I couldn't answer yet. I learned how to deflect gently, how to tell the truth without telling everything. "Your mum can't be with us," I would say, "but you are loved, always." That was never a lie. As Lily grew, the house filled with sound again. Toys on the floor, laughter in the mornings, questions at bedtime. Sometimes I caught myself listening for Noah's voice, expecting him to step into the room and see what we had built. I kept the blanket, the old one. I washed it carefully, repaired the seam and folded it away in the top drawer of my dresser. I didn't give it back to Lily. It carried too much. It had already done its work. Grace remained my anchor. She came over for dinner once a week, sometimes more. We talked about ordinary things, recipes, weather, Lily's school projects. She never pushed me to revisit the past. Years passed. When Lily was 8, she asked me directly why she didn't see her mother. I sat with her on the couch, my arm around her shoulders. "Your mother made choices that hurt people," I said carefully. "And she has to face the consequences of those choices." "Did she hurt my dad?" Lily asked. I swallowed. "Yes," I said. "She did." Lily was quiet for a long time. "Did she hurt you?" she asked. I thought about the years of silence, the control, the fear. "Yes," I said. "But she doesn't get to hurt us anymore." That seemed to satisfy her. When Lily turned 13, she learned the rest, the affair, the planning, the truth behind her father's death. We cried together that night. I held her until she fell asleep, just as I had when she was small. "You saved me," she said once, much later. I shook my head. We saved each other. The notebook I had kept during those early years sits on my bookshelf now. I don't open it often. I don't need to. The story is finished. Sometimes I think about Ashley. I don't wonder if she feels regret. That question stopped mattering a long time ago. Some people live by calculation alone. They don't look back. Harlan Pierce took a plea deal. He will spend the rest of his life in prison. I never spoke to him. I never wanted to. Noah visits me in small ways now, in Lily's expressions, in her patience, in the way she takes care with the people she loves. He lives on through her, not in memory, but in motion. Last year, Lily learned how to knit. She sat beside me in the evenings, fumbling with the needles, laughing when she dropped a stitch. It took her months, but she finished it. She handed it to me quietly. A blanket, mint green. "I wanted to make something that didn't have any secrets in it," she said. I held it to my chest and cried. The old blanket led me to the truth. The new one reminds me why I searched for it. Sometimes, when the house is quiet and the light is soft, I take them both out and lay them side by side. One carried pain, one carries peace. They are part of the same story, so are we. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The truth doesn't disappear just because someone tries to throw it away. It waits, it hides, and when it's ready, it makes itself known. I didn't go look for justice. I went look for my granddaughter, and in the end, I found both.